broken foot, out potentially for the next 3 months, put his return around November.
You can't make this stuff up. It's unbelievable.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
May be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
What is going on with the Colts timeline? 5 to 12 weeks is enormous. Even Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, when asked about it, was like, I don't even know what you're saying there. 5 to 12 weeks or whatever. Like, it's absurd. Also, Quenton Nelson,
that's their
stud guard, one of the best offensive linemen, if not the very best offensive lineman in the NFL.
Yep.
Also out with the same foot injury, and same timeline. 5 to 12 weeks. I think the Nelson injury actually is more problematic than the Carson Wentz injury. I know that sounds crazy because Carson Wentz is the quarterback, right? The whole premise behind rebuilding Carson Wentz was that you were going to have this great ecosystem of an awesome offensive line and Frank Reich. Well, now you've already started to like chip away at one of those pieces in the ecosystem there. This is an offensive line that was already going to be missing their starting left tackle, Eric Fisher, who is a new starter for them after Anthony Costanzo hit the road. Like, this is an offensive line that was already bringing in a change. Now Quenton Nelson, their best player, is going to be on the shelf for this huge window of time. Who knows?
Quenton Nelson, on the shelf. Carson Wentz on the shelf. I know I've gone on this program many times and just, talked about my love for Michael Pittman, but I don't know now. You know what I mean? The offense is looking a little shaky all of a sudden.
There's a couple different ways you could look at this with the Michael Pittman thing. I have put my tiered cheat sheet up on the website, receptionperception.com. It's only available to RP subscribers this year. Usually this is a document I give out for free. We don't give things out for free here anymore. Not around these parts. Some things, sure. We know that. Odell Beckham's profile still free on the website. Great idea by James Coe there. But with this cheat sheet, basically I'm keeping a log of all of the changes I make. So if you go to the website and check it out, you'll see that I already did make some adjustments because of the Carson Wentz injury. And basically all I did with Michael Pittman, I kept him at around the same receiver spot, but I bumped him from like the bottom of tier 6 to the top of tier 7.
I'm kind of understanding where you're coming from with this whole Michael Pittman thing, where it's just kind of like, all right, we're pumping the brakes. We're not full go on Michael Pittman as a sleeper. But how much further really can you bump him down? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's not like Wentz is going to miss the season. Hopefully, golly, keep our fingers crossed. And the same thing with Quenton Nelson, right? Like, it's not like he's missing the entire season either, right? So like, out till November, potentially, that doesn't sound great. But again, you're not winning championships in September, October.
Where you weren't going to like start Michael Pittman right out of the gate, no matter what. If we're talking like a seasonal redraft league, roster management, not best ball, anything like that, you weren't going to be starting Michael Pittman. Probably, like, how long would it have taken you? What would you have needed to see from him to start pulling him from, I don't know, the lineup in favor of guys that you might have drafted in the 4th or 5th round or something like that? You need to have built up the level of confidence there anyways. The whole point of this show and the whole point of Reception Perception is to like be a little bit more forward thinking than like just the draft at the end of this month, right? Like there's a lot more that's going to happen after that. Years and years and years from now, it's like, we still told you Michael Pittman was going to be good. That can still count in November and December. Even if you're not the one that drafts him, maybe you wait for someone else to drop him and you trade for him, stuff like that. It all matters. It's not just about the draft. Like, let's keep everything in perspective. But basically, so like I said, I have him in wide receiver tier 7 right now. I'm still keeping him like as an earmarked guy, but not like a must grab type of player. But what I'm interested in, James, is what about the rest of the offense? Like, I think the Pittman analysis is pretty easy. But are we like, how much are we freaking out about Jonathan Taylor?
I just thought last year too, when he popped up those huge games, a lot of it was against bad teams and bad defenses, man. So I was already a little bit shaky on Jonathan Taylor. And by the way, I'm also the same guy that when he got the starting gig, when Marlon Mack went down, I said, hey, listen, this is a guy that's potentially a top 5 fantasy football player moving forward. of course, I was fully justified because then by the time draft season rolled around, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, well of course. I mean, of course, Jonathan Taylor's a top 7 pick. Well, I mean, of course he is." It's like, well, hold on. I said that last year in September, bruh. Like, what? And then I was an idiot for it. Like, but now we're fast forwarding 1 year, and it's a no. Anyways, whatever.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, of course. Jonathan Taylor, no-brainer, top 7 pick. I mean, who didn't see that? Who didn't see that? Obviously, so stupid. But no, look at that draft price though. You're right, Matt. There's a lot of question marks. Is there not? Quenton Nelson, obviously the biggest, question mark in that whole thing. But not having Carson Wentz and having some character, named whatever Jacob Eason or whatever. The offense. We talked about this last week. It's hard to have a top 5 running back in a bad offense. They are most definitely in the bottom half of the league. Of that, there is no question in my mind.
Right. And they could have been that team with Carson Wentz. Like, again, that's where some of like this analysis already was there. Right. Like they could have been a bad off. Like there's a totally decent chance that Carson Wentz is worse than Phillip Rivers was last year. Jonathan Taylor might not receive the same amount of targets as he did last year because, again, to bring it back to Phillip Rivers, Rivers is a dump-off guy. Rivers is a guy who is going to drop the ball down to his running backs. He's going to target that position heavily. So if there's just fewer pass attempts overall to running backs this year, that's going to lower the slice of the pie for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. We were little worried about Alvin Kamara on last week's show. We talked about some of the negatives there. At least we know Kamara is going to get like 100 targets this year.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen for Jonathan Taylor.
And Matt, wouldn't you agree? Like that's the profile of a guy who is going to be a top 5 fantasy running back. The profile includes passing work. And I am not 100% sure that this is a guy, especially, again, with Nyheim Hines there, is this a guy, Jonathan Taylor, that's going to get you 40, 50 targets? There's at least a huge question mark there. And like, let's be real. It's not like Marlon Mack is now just gone. Like, no, he's back too. Like Jordan Wilkins is somewhere, lurking as well. Even if they were to cut into his load, like 25%, that's huge. And in that way, I just feel like if those guys are going to get into the mix, tell yourself a story. Like how does Jonathan Taylor return top 7 value? That story gets awfully convoluted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He has to he has to score a bunch of touchdowns. And is he going to score a bunch of touchdowns with Jacob Eason running the show? That's difficult.